once you graduate the academy, you go on your yard. This is the exciting thing. Okay, now you're actually on the yard. Now you actually get to meet the people that you're gonna be working with on a day-to-day basis. And that was for me. I thought it was the most fun part because I'm like, okay, I get to be around the family. I'm like, man, I can't wait to search themselves and do all this other stuff too. It was so much fun when I first got on the yard. But going back to my point of when you have that excitement as a young officer, and me, I'm not married, don't have kids, so I'm like, I can't wait to mess things up. But the problem is when you have some of these officers who have experienced some of this stuff, let's just say who are lifers, who are going to retire and who are going to do this for 10, 15 years, they're not trying to do any of that stuff. I'm trying to find contraband. I'm trying to do all this other stuff. I'm trying to find everything. I'm trying to make a name for myself here. A lot of those other officers, they're not trying to do that. And I'll tell you why. You can tell. You can tell how good an officer is by pat downs. Pat downs for me, you got to, everything. You go down the waist, you go down, you do everything. You touch down the ankles. You do a thorough pat down. A lot of officers were just like Harry Potter. They were just, all right, you're next. You're next. They wouldn't even care. And these inmates saw that. They knew which officers they can get away with. They knew which officer going to really pat them down because they knew me. It's my first year, right? I'm patting every little crevice I can find. You better open your mouth, under your tongue, your hat, take your hat off, do your shirts, your pants, your socks. I'm doing everything. Some of the other officers are just like one, so they know exactly which officer to go to, right? Now, the problem is that once you have those lazy officers who aren't going to try to do anything or try to find anything or try to locate any contraband or when these people are going up to the chow hall, I might get some type of, hey, this person has this in the cell. And as soon as he goes in the chow hall, I go back to that cell to try to find it. As soon as those officers, are lazy like that, you can't trust them. There was very, very, very few people that I actually trusted on the yard as an officer. A lot of officers get compromised very easily. A lot of women officers get compromised very easily. And, for men, it's always bringing stuff in. So, for example, let's just say hypothetically, a inmate were to overhear you talking to another officer about, your wife's divorcing you and you got to pay all these, alimony, you got to pay child support, and it's a really tough time for you. Inmates are very, very, very smart. They know exactly who to talk to try to compromise you. So let's just say an inmate overhears you talking about, your bills and stuff that you got to get catch up on and all this other stuff. Well, an inmate will say, hey, let's just say Hernandez. Hey, Hernandez. Hey, I heard you talking to Officer Moore the other day. And look, I know it's none of my business, but I've been there. I have been divorced and all those bills can really catch up. So I know what you're talking about. But if you want a little extra money, I know some people. And then if he does not report that conversation right off the bat, compromised. Okay? If the inmate is going to give a little feeler to see what the officer is going to report, to not get himself in trouble, so we can say, oh no, I didn't mean that, I just meant this, right? The officer needs to report any type of, let's just say, could be compromising conversations. Because if he doesn't, that inmate knows, wait, I just said this to Officer Moore and he didn't say anything. I just said this to Officer Hernandez. He didn't say anything either. Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit more. So let's just say I go to Officer Hernandez again and this inmate says, hey, about our conversation, I know we really can finish it, but why don't we talk about a little bit more? All you have to do, maybe bring me a little something. What do all inmates want? They want drugs and they want a phone, right? All inmates want drugs and phone. So if Officer Hernandez says, hey, look, you know what? Okay, cool. I'll bring you this. The inmate will say, okay, you bring me this and I'll give you a little something. And obviously it's going to be a decent amount in order to compromise your career, right? It's going to be a decent amount, a few thousand, whatever it is, but it's going to be a decent amount just the first time because an officer thinks, well, hold on, I've been here for a couple of years. I know how the system works and the gates and everything like that. And I carry a bag and maybe I can bring something in. The problem is with that is that once you are compromised, You're going to get caught. There's no question about it, because that inmate's going to get caught. Guess what? That inmate's going to get caught with whatever you brought in. There's going to be a time where we search that guy's house, or we search and find a phone, we find some type of contraband. There's going to be a time where something is going to get caught. And when that guy does get caught, guess who he's telling on? The first thing he's going to do to try to save himself, he's going to tell on you. He's going to tell on that officer. And guess who gets in more in trouble? Not only does that officer get fired, but that officer is facing jail time. You know what I mean? Who knows what? Inmates are very good at manipulation. They're very, very, very good at it. And that's why you cannot find yourself in these compromising conversations with these inmates, because they are very smart. They know what to say and what not to say. So as soon as you try to even think about doing that, they got you. Especially for women too. A lot of these guys who have been in prison for 10, 15, 20 years are experiencing life, and they see a woman who maybe not be attractive, but guess what? He's been in prison for so long, anything's attractive to him at this point, right? And he sees a woman who, let's just say, a woman who isn't used to compliments, who's not getting used to compliments all the time, and this inmate starts flirting with her and starts saying, "Oh my gosh, Officer Dill, I just want to say you look very nice today." Again, that woman officer has a right to report that. She has to report that conversation. Has to. Because if she does not, now the inmate knows, oh, okay, she didn't report that. Now I got her. Now it goes from, oh, you look very nice, to, wow, your hair, wow. I noticed you did something different with your hair. What's going on? And now she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Compromised. I can't tell you how many woman officers I've known that have gotten in trouble for sleeping with an inmate. Now, and I'll tell you that the worst situation that, it was right before I got in the yard. I'm not gonna say the officer's name, but it was right before I got on the yard. There was an officer who, very young, I think he was like 24, who had a couple kids and had a beautiful woman at home, beautiful wife at home. He was messing with this he was messing with this inmate named Angel. Now, Angel, I crap you not, looked like Angelina Jolie. Like this dude, like long hair, like I had to look back. I'm like, wait, what the? This dude was so famous. Like he would literally go on the yard and all the people would look, Angel, what's going on? And Angel was like, a celebrity on the yard. I'm like, well, what's this girl doing? He was like, nah, that's not a girl. That's a guy. I'm like, it's crazy how much he looked like a girl. So I don't know what type of surgeries he was getting, whatever. But this inmate was messing around with Angel. Now, inmates have no rights when it comes to that, okay? There is no consensual relationship when it comes to an inmate, okay? It is considered the R word, okay? If an officer is messing with an inmate, it is considered an R word. There is no consensual relationship, okay? So, sure enough, a sergeant was doing a security check, and every 30 minutes to an hour, you have to do a security check to make sure they're okay. They're still breathing. They're not, hurting themselves in any type of way. They have to do a security check. The sergeant was doing a security check, and this inmate said, "Hey, this just happened to me." And the sergeant was like, "Come on, no way." And they had some of the officers, let's just say, love juice. And that's how the officer got caught. Now, the crazy thing is that not only do you get fired, not only do you have to do jail time, but your whole entire family now knows that it's on the news, that your family knows. I can only imagine how the wife and kids felt. Just embarrassing. But the thing about being in the prison, and when I was there, was I was ready to, anybody that looked at me, I had to prove myself, right? So there was 2 times that I had to get off the yard. And the 2 times I had to get off the yard was, I had used to wear glasses back in the day before I got my LASIK, because I would wear contacts, but I couldn't wear contacts on a yard because I knew that if I got pepper sprayed, I just ruined my eyes, it ruined my contacts, so I didn't want to risk that. So I wore glasses. But I'd be very careful when I was walking, and I just make sure that I didn't say the wrong things, because I was on a PC yard. PC is protective custody. I wasn't on the 3 yard, which is a GP yard. Now, the GP yard is what you see in Arizona. What you see in all these movies, you'll have like the blacks over here, the whites over here, the Hispanics over there. That's very much true. That's very much true. And if you go on a GP yard your first day, and let's just say hypothetically there is a fight and you're a white, you are expected to jump in. That is a 100% fact. If you are white or whatever race, and you see your team, or you see your race fighting another race, you have to jump in. Doesn't matter if you know the details, what happened. You don't get to, hey, what happened? Okay, look, what's your side? Oh, what's your side? Okay, let me figure. No, there is no figuring out. That's what you do, okay? And if you don't, good luck, because you are going to get hurt. If a white person is in the fight and he sees you not doing anything, oh boy, look out. So that's what the PC yard was. The PC yard was from the people that were removed from the 3 yard. Let's just say they didn't want to deal with the politics. Let's just say they didn't want to surround themselves with some of that racial stuff. Let's just say they told on somebody. They didn't want to be around that area, so they're off that yard, okay? And PC is protective custody, so now you have other inmates that are PC. Now, in the PC yard, you don't have those cliques. You don't have the blacks and the whites. You don't have that. Sometimes you'll show us a black and a white dude will share a cell. A Hispanic and a Native will share a cell. Like that's kind of it is. That those politics on that yard is not there anymore, right? So it was a little bit differently working on that yard. Now, on a GP yard, that's where things are most likely to happen. On a PC yard, you really didn't have to worry about that because people were just there to do their time and leave. GP yard, you're looking to, as an inmate, you're looking to make a name for yourself, especially if you're young. You're looking to make a name for yourself. So the biggest thing is that when you have a young kid and you have an officer who, let's just say, the officer tells this young kid, hey, pull up your pants. And he does not pull up his pants. Well, in Arizona, you had a strict dress code. You couldn't have your hat cocked to the side. You had your pants pulled up. You had your shirt tucked in. You had all these strict dress codes. And you're 35, you're 40 years old, and let's just say you off someone or whatever. You're not pulling up your pants. Now, a lot of the times, let's just say I tell an inmate, hey man, pull up your pants. Pull up your pants. Put your hat straight. Tuck your shirt in. F you, Henderson. Oh, you're going to be on report. Oh, I don't care. Put me on report. Now, putting somebody on report means that I'm going to make sure that I, write a disciplinary action on you to try to take some type of visits away. So then you would have a CO3 go up to that inmate. Hey, inmate Cruz, on June 25th, did you tell Officer Henderson to go F himself when he was telling you to pull up your pants? Yeah, but here's the manipulation part. The inmates would say, yeah, I did. But, I was really going through a tough time, and I found out that my mom is sick, and, my aunt was sick too, and she ate something, and now they're in a hospital, and I don't know what I was thinking. I really respect Officer Henderson, but it was just a lot of emotions going through my head, and I don't know what that, and I'd be like, what? And then I'll see that same inmate, and I'm like, yeah, you got on a report, and he's like, yeah, so? And I'll be like, wait, hold on, CO3, what did we take away? What was his discipline? Well, I talked to him and he said, and he, his family. I said, what? And in the corner of his eye, I see him like smirking, like, got you. I'm like, wow. That was one of the first, one of the reasons why I quit. There was 2 reasons why I quit. So that was one of the first ones. Once I saw stuff like that happening, I really had to quit. But the 2 times I had to get off the yard was, and this is not, the inmates dictated this, to my sergeants, which I had to get off the yard. Was one time I was walking up to the chow hall, and I can already tell the way it was very structured. It was like the inmates knew that they had to come through, they had to have their shirts tucked in, everything like that. They knew how I was. You're not going to compromise me. I'm going to tell you to pull up your pants and tuck in your shirt. You know that. When you see me, you know that. And they're going to have to walk on the line. And then when they walk on this line, all in a single file line, they walk up to the chow hall. Normal day. They come through the cell, they come through the scanner and make sure there's nothing going off, whatever like that. They line up single file and then they go up to the chow hall. Well, this day, this dude, this random inmate decides to not do that. And Everybody has to walk together, right? You just can't have one person walking up to the child and the rest stay back. That's not how I play. So I said, hey, man, what are you doing? He started walking up to the chow hall. I mean, the whole group of people is over here waiting, and this dude starts walking up to the chow hall. I said, wait, hold on. Wait, what are you doing? You can't just walk up to the chow hall. Hold up, turn around. He's like, F you, Henderson. And this guy had to be, 150 pounds. Me at that time, I was like 275 pounds. Like I was, lifting everything in the gym. And I'm like, what the hell? And all the inmates are looking. Like, oh, snap. He's talking crap to Henderson. What? Oh, snap. And I'm like, oh, God, okay. Hey, man, turn around. Get back over here. F you, Henderson. Oh, okay. So now I chase up to him. Now me and him are face to face. I'm like, hey, man, did you hear what I said? I said, you're not going up to the chow hall. He looks back, like does one of these to the inmates, and he takes a swing. Now me, I'm already in defensive stance, right? You never want to stand straight up against somebody. When you're talking to an inmate, I always put my right foot back, right? Just in case, just in my defensive stance. And that's what it, so when he swung at me, I ducked, took him down to the ground and gave him a couple shots. I'm defending myself, right? Inmates in the tower, the horns going off, ICS, officers come around, put them in handcuffs, take them up, whatever like that. I'm thinking, yeah, let that be a warning, inmates, yeah. Well, apparently the inmates are not like that. The inmates did not like how I gave him some shots when he was on the ground. The inmates hated that. What they wanted me to do was just take him down to the ground and put handcuffs on him. The problem is that now they reiterated that message to one of the sergeants. Now, because they reiterated that message to the sergeants that they did not like how I handled that situation, I had to get off the yard because my sergeant was afraid that I was going to get attacked as far as retaliation of what I did to that inmate. Okay, I can. At first, I was like, "What? Why do we even listen to these inmates? Who cares?" But the sergeant's like, "No, we're gonna put you in a control tower for a few weeks, just until this cools down." And I said, "Okay, all right, fine, okay." The second time, and this was the icebreaker for me, because I can understand where the sergeant was looking out for me in that situation just because he didn't want to put me in jeopardy. I can understand that. So that one, it made me upset because I wanted to be on the yard. I'm like, the control tower was like the most boring position ever. You're just pushing buttons. I'm like, I didn't want to do that, but whatever. The second time was we had an ICS on the yard. And in the ICS, the only people that can move are, officers escorting inmates to medical or other officers. If you're an inmate and you just can't be on there, you have to either sit down right away or you either have to go back to your house, and we have to handle this ICS. So we had an ICS on the yard on the red side, and this inmate, I forgot this inmate's name, but this inmate was walking towards visits. And I said, hey, bro. I didn't call him bro, but I said, hey, you can't walk right now. It's ICS. He said, Henderson, move out of my way. And I said, no, we're not doing that. No. Come on, man. It's Sunday. We're not doing that, bro. Just go back to your house. Go back to the cell, and I promise you I'll go get you. I'm trying to be very polite right now. Go back to your cell, lock down. I got you. Come back down. Once the ICS is done, I'll come personally get you, and you'll walk you up to your visits. He says, Henderson, I don't care what you're saying right now. I'm going to visits. Move out of the way. Now I'm locked in. I'm in my defensive stance. I'm locked in because I'm not backing down. Here's where I messed up. And looking at it now, I know that I messed up. But me, I'm tunnel vision. I'm a young kid, right? I got tunnel vision on this guy. I'm in my defensive stance, ready to defend myself when this guy swings. I'm looking at him, just dead in his eye, just looking at him. The problem was I wasn't aware of my surroundings. And I did not know that this guy also controlled the red side of the yard. So I all of a sudden hear, after like maybe 30 seconds of a minute of us just looking at each other, I hear my lieutenant, Henderson, stand down. Henderson, stand down. I'm like, I turn around, look at him. I turn around. I got 5 inmates behind me. 5 inmates behind me, all in defensive stances. And I was like, whoa, okay. I really could have just got jumped right here, And you can be as big as you want to be, have whatever martial arts. You're not going to take, 6 grown men all at once. This is not a Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Like you're gonna get jumped and you're gonna get hurt. These are inmates. So my sergeant came in and let him go up to the visits. And I said, wait, hold on. This guy was refusing my commands to lock down, and you're just going to let him go to visits? He said, no. He said, Henderson, we'll talk about this later. So later on, I was my sergeant, my lieutenant, my captain, and my warden. And they say, Henderson, I don't think you understand what you just did. I said, what are you talking about? I tried to get this guy to lock down, and he wouldn't. And they said, that inmate controls the red side of the yard. Not only did you put yourself in harm's way, you put other officers that were on that side of the yard in harm's way, because if it wasn't for your sergeant, getting your attention, you were surrounded by 5 inmates and you had no idea. So now, Henderson, because of that, you need to be retrained. I said, retrained? What do you mean? You need to be retrained on de-escalation. What? De-escalation? What? I was telling this inmate to lock down. I didn't call him a name. I didn't scream at him. I just told him to lock down. I was doing my job. But you should have just let him go, Henderson. And we're going to send you to the academy again. I said, you're sending me to Tucson to get retrained with cadets? Are you kidding me? I went to retraining. The second week back, I'm like, during the entire time of retraining, I'm like, this is so embarrassing. This is humiliating. I'm doing my job, and yet this prison, this warden, my captain, was telling me how bad of a job I was doing, how awful that situation, how awful I was in that situation. I put others in harm's way by not standing down and just letting that officer go, or letting that inmate go. I was like, you know what? This prison, and I'm sure most other prisons, but the one in Lewis is run by inmates. You can be an officer all you want to. You can do we just call them 8 and skate. The people that are just there to do their 8 hours and leave, 8 and skate. That's all they're looking to do. You can be people like that, but inmates will always run the yards. And that's why I was so confused, because so many people talk about, I want these people to rot. I mean, do you know how many times I used to pop a cell open and they would say, yo, what's up, dude? Hey, yo, what up? All right, I'll be over there. Meet me in the chow hall. Yeah, I'll see you. They're acting like they're on the beach. They got TVs in their cell. They got all these amenities. They got the rec. And I'm like, what is going on? I didn't realize at first. But then later on, I realized that they're giving them all these privileges to keep them from hurting themselves or others. And these people, these officers, these wardens are just there to maintain that. They don't want to deal with riots. These officers are not, a lot of them don't have the mentality of, all right, let's mess some stuff up today. They don't have that mentality. They're just there to get some great benefits. The pay is trash. By the way, if you're a correctional officer right now, you deserve to get paid way more, because the pay is awful. I mean, I only did it because they got some great benefits. But besides that, the inmates will always run the yard. Always. Because a lot of those officers aren't trying to deal with riots and fights and stuff like that. They're not trying to get hurt. They're not trying to go home with blood on them or bruised eyes or anything like that. So if they have to look the other way for contraband, because they know, like, oh, wait, this guy might hurt me. Okay, yeah, go, why don't I turn away and you flush that. Flush it real quick, and then I'll come back 5 minutes later to search your cell. A lot of corruption going on in those prisons. That was my story of me being in prison. And as an officer, I saw some great things. I had some fun times. I had some horrible times. But if you're an officer today, still working in a prison, I commend you. I give you kudos. Be safe, and God bless.